to The Art of Adventure. This is 5 Minute Friday, 10 lessons for entrepreneurs from the world of pro sports. And as some of you know, I was a pro cyclist before I got into entrepreneurship. And I also used to teach or train pro athletes, pro cyclists. I would train them how to become professionals. This was actually my first business, was that coaching. And so there's a lot of transfer, a lot of carryover. So here are 10 of my favorite lessons that we can distill from Olympians and pro athletes and how to apply that for productivity in the world of entrepreneurship. So number one is to manage your energy. Pro athletes know that the most important thing is recovery. So in sports, you can't improve unless you give your body time to rest and adapt. And so this means getting good enough sleep, managing your nutrition, managing your mental energy, your spiritual energy, your emotional energy. All of these things that allow you to show up and have really good training and allow you to have high level competition. So you're not only understanding your human body, but you're understanding all the aspects that provide you with that fire so that when you need to be on point, you're going to be performing at your highest level. Okay, number two, self-experimentation. Athletes, they are always trying new things. Should I be stretching? Should I not be stretching? Should I be eating lots of carbs? Should I be not eating any carbs? So you can apply the same things. You can be testing your diet. You can test the time of day that it's better for you if you're a painter or a writer or something like that. When is the best time of day? You can test, different warm-up routines or different music that you'd be listening to during a performance, etc. So you really want to isolate a variable and then test how it works for you so that you can keep refining how you set up your life and how you set up your recovery so that you can perform at your best when you have to. And so athletes, this is one that I didn't put on the list, but they're thinking a lot about the times when they are performing during competition and during their key workouts. They want to arrive in as good of shape as possible. So they want to optimize the conditions before they get to these workouts. And so that ties in with optimizing the important output. So defining what it is to win. So a lot of times in a sport or a game, it's clear, you got to win a race, you got to get a goal, whatever. In entrepreneurship or productivity, sometimes there's not a nebulous goal, or sometimes you have to set it. So if you can define your parameters, define what a win is for you with an intention. Here's what I can win my day today, or I can win this meeting, or I can win the year if I have, X output or make X dollars, or, we just want to define it so you can put your efforts towards a clear objective. So that means ignoring things that might be good, but not good for your objective. So in the world of sports, if you put on too much muscle, you're going to be heavier, which means if your main objective is running up mountains, then it's going to affect your power to weight ratio and probably make you slower, even though having muscle in general would be good for athletes. So you may have to use that to decide what not to do as much it is deciding for what you should be doing. So define your wins. All right, the best athletes. So that was 1, 2, and 3. So number 4 is to seek progression. Athletes are always looking for ways to get faster, stronger, etc. And so they're always looking to the world's best. They're always finding coaches. They're always trying to understand ways that they can get 1% better each day. And coming back to managing the energy, there are also off seasons. There are also times when they're not worrying about progression. So sometimes they're doing a big push, they're getting fit for the Olympics, but then what do you think they do after they win the gold medal at the Olympics? They probably rest and party. And then, there's, for baseball and football and basketball, there's always an off season too. And of course they're maintaining, but they're not always training as hard or approaching it with the same intensity, or they're working different things. So sometimes there is a dip, there's an off season, and that can help maintain your long-term energy as well. And if you're seeking progression, then of course you're going to seek out the best coaches and the best competitors that are going to highlight the areas that you have for improvement. Number 5, pros master the basics, and they get them to a level where they're unconscious. So they're, think of a tennis player, forehand, backhand serves, running, etc. They don't want to have to think about that in a game. They want to think about how they can beat the other player. So, that's where choking comes in, when you take these things that are unconscious competencies and bring them into the conscious mind. All of a sudden you're thinking about the movement, you're thinking about, what do I say in this conversation? You're overthinking things that should be unconscious. So you want to master the basics to the level where they're unconscious. So whatever that means for you, what are the basic skills, whether it's speaking, communicating, whatever your productive output is, get the basics to a place where they're unconscious. All right, pros have mastered the art of visualization and rehearsal. Both in training, they understand what perfect practice looks like. You've heard the expression, practice makes perfect, but the expression should really mean perfect practice makes perfect. And they've shown that with physical skills like putting a golf ball, for example, if you mentally rehearse the perfect stroke in your mind before and after you actually take a practice stroke, you're going to improve much faster. And I had a ski instructor tell me that most people, they, in their last few turns before they get on the lift, the ski slope has sort of flattened out and people stop trying to have really good turns. And so you're locking in really bad habits, because the next thing you do is you ride the lift back up to the top where you have a chance to lock in the habits. And so you should really be focusing on the first turns and the last turns being as good as possible, and then visualizing perfection on the lift ride up. So they're not just rehearsing practice, they're also rehearsing the performance when you have to show up and lead a meeting or host a podcast or write a blog post or whatever it may be. They are not just showing up and doing it, they're fully visualizing the situation, how they want to be showing up, their own feelings, the mood in the room. They're placing themselves in the situation before it happens so that they can be really comfortable when it does happen. So there's a lot of the mental game that goes on in pro sports, and mastering our own mental performance in entrepreneurship and career productivity is super important as well. So let's talk about mental toughness. Mental toughness is number 7. A lot of pros, they will make sure their hardest workouts are way harder than competition, way harder than game day. And of course, you're going to be able to show up and get the best out of yourself at the Olympics or at the World Cup, or some of these peak moments. You'll have outrageous performances. But if you, in general, can make your training so hard that the final competition or the performance feels easy, then you're going to be ready for a sudden gust of wind, or the crowds and the flashing lights, or you might get sick the night before, or you're traveling, you don't have the optimum sleep. So you want to train and practice so that you can perform well no matter what the conditions. So you're creating conditions in practice that are going to challenge you, and they're going to test your mental toughness so that you actually get used to that difficulty. One of my first cycling mentors, we were going up a steep mountain and we were riding pretty much as hard as we could, to the point where you can't really speak. It's too hard to get, but just one word out at a time, and your whole body starts to burn, and you kind of have tunnel vision. And he said, you feel this feeling right now. You need to feel right at home in this feeling, because when everyone is feeling this feeling, that's when they're tempted to back off. And that is when you can win the race. So I spent hours and hours and hours riding at that intensity of like 99 out of 100, almost about to die kind of intensity. And I got really comfortable living in that place. And so I knew that when I was feeling that, everyone else would be feeling that. And that was a great opportunity. So getting comfortable with that discomfort, whether it's the physical discomfort or just the pressure, the high stakes situation, training yourself to be mentally tough is really important. Okay, number 8 is also understanding your own psychology, understanding your motivations and what your self-talk is doing when things are going well, when things are not going well. What happens when you lose focus? Where does your attention go? How do you bring your focus back? All these things are really important for both, in the moment output and long term. Over the years of your career, over the years of running a business, etc. You want to know how you can bring yourself back when you get off track. Number 9, optimize your routine. You might have seen baseball players, they rub their hat, they take their gloves on and off before they step up to the batter's cage, they tap the bat against their shoes. All of these things are little triggers. They're helping them get into focus. They're like a morning ritual or a habit or a routine that provides some consistency and helps them get into the zone or helps prepare them for their session. A lot of athletes do this same warm-up before a workout or before a competition. So again, if you're systematizing as many things as possible, then it leaves room for focus and creativity and openness when you actually get down to the core of what you're trying to do. And number 10 is to keep the joy. If you're competing and it's no longer fun, or if you're just starting out in a sport and you try to, hire the best coach in the world and they're like, here's what you can do to do better, but really you haven't got to the place where you really love what you're doing and you haven't been encouraged enough. And, so it's really important just to enjoy the first months and years of mastering something. And if you ever lose the joy, connect back in with why you're doing something in the first place. And if you don't think you can find the joy, well, then maybe you shouldn't be doing it. In the world of sports, like, you don't have to keep playing if it's not fun anymore, or you can find new ways to make it fun. If you've mastered all the things that used to make it fun and now they're just boring because you're so good at them, well, maybe you need to find a new challenge for yourself, a new area to grow and explore. It's going back to the seeking of progression. But make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, understand your motivations, and keep it fun. And of course, that's going to help with the energy. Of course, that's going to help with getting other people to want to do it with you. So my friend Nick of Life Athletics says, life is a game. Like, let's play this game. Let's define what we want to win and let's have fun and let's keep it there. It doesn't have to be serious. It doesn't have to be always hard work. Sports originally came about because they're fun. And I think business should be fun and our careers should be fun as well as giving us the things we need for our life. So there are your 10 or 11, I can't remember which, if I said 10 or 11, lessons from the world of pro sports for productivity and entrepreneurship. Let me know on Instagram which one was the most meaningful for you, or which one do you think could benefit you the most. And I'm just going to go ahead and plug my coaching business here. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to achieve peak performance like a pro athlete, then let's have a chat. And especially if you are a thought leader, an author, an influencer, a coach, and you're mixing all different kinds of things together, or if you've got a business that is working with an entirely new business model and there's no clear path for you to follow, if you're paving the way, this is the type of entrepreneur that I really love to work with. So you can email me, Derek at Derek Loudermilk, or you can apply on derekloudermilk.com. And would love to start a conversation with you and see if it's a good fit. All right, that is all for today's episode. Now it's your turn to go out there and be adventurous.